Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a question that's equal parts philosophical and deeply scientific. What exactly makes a living thing, well, alive? We're going to explore the incredible, completely invisible mechanisms that keep you, me, and every other organism on this planet actually functioning.
Okay, picture this. You've got a completely still, sleeping dog lying right next to a totally stationary rock. To the naked eye, at that exact moment, neither one is moving, neither is making a peep, so from a strictly observational standpoint, how does the universe actually distinguish between the biological organism and the geological object?
Well, while both might look totally motionless on the outside, internally, that dog is waging a massive, invisible war against thermodynamic decay. See, the rock is just passively existing. It's slowly surrendering to the natural progression of the universe, which is entropy. The tendency of literally everything to move from order to disorder. But the sleeping dog, it's a highly organized, open thermodynamic system that is actively working to stop that decay in its tracks.
And that brings us to our blueprint of existence for today. First, defining life processes. Second, maintenance versus growth. Third, the universal need for energy. And finally, the distinct characteristics of living organisms.
Now, life operates across some seriously mind-bending scales, from microscopic cells all the way up to the complex macroscopic pumping of a human heart. Life totally relies on these highly coordinated internal systems. It's not just one single thing happening. It's literally trillions of biochemical activities happening in perfect harmony.
All right, let's jump into Section 1. Defining life processes, the ultimate biological maintenance system.
So at their core, life processes are essentially an organism's 24/7 maintenance system. They're constantly, and I mean constantly, working to prevent structural wear and tear. You can actually remember the core processes with a handy acronym RENT: respiration, excretion, nutrition, and transportation. Nutrition brings the raw materials in. Respiration oxidizes that food to release energy. Transportation ferries those nutrients and oxygen to every single cell. And excretion removes all the toxic byproducts so you don't, accidentally poison yourself from the inside out. Together, these processes hold the line against entropy.
Moving on to Section 2, maintenance versus growth, the invisible engine of life.
You might think your body basically shuts down when you're doing nothing. You're lying in bed, your eyes are closed, your muscles are totally relaxed. But think about it. What is actually happening to your cells when you are completely inactive? Well, even during complete, deep sleep dormancy, your biological maintenance just keeps running, entirely uninterrupted. Your body is basically a bustling metropolis at night. Cells are dividing to replace dead ones, proteins are being frantically synthesized to repair microscopic muscle tears, and your kidneys? They are filtering liters upon liters of blood just to maintain your chemical balance. Literally, if this maintenance stopped, even for a few short minutes, the decay would become completely irreversible. And there's a really stark contrast between these two concepts. Growth. Growth is visible. It's an irreversible increase in cellular mass. You get taller, your bones get longer. But in adult animals, us humans included, this determinate growth does eventually stop. Maintenance, on the other hand, is the invisible, lifelong engine that absolutely must continuously run. Once you stop growing, your body just shifts all its resources strictly toward tissue repair and waste removal, just to keep the machine running. Which brings us to Section 3, the need for energy, the universal currency of cells. Okay, 30.5 kilojoules per mole. To put that into perspective, that is the exact amount of free energy released by hydrolyzing the terminal phosphate bond of adenosine triphosphate, better known as ATP. And ATP is the universal energy currency of all living cells. Seriously, whether you're a human simply blinking an eye or a plant absorbing a mineral from the soil, the work is being paid for by breaking apart ATP. It is the fuel driving your muscular contractions, active transport, protein synthesis, the whole shebang. Now, to get the raw materials to actually build that ATP, organisms use two main nutritional strategies. First, you've got autotrophs, like green plants, who literally build their own food from scratch. They take super simple, inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water and fix them into complex carbohydrates using just sunlight. Then there's the heterotrophs, which includes animals and fungi. We are thermodynamically incapable of doing that cool sunlight trick, so we have to ingest, digest, and assimilate pre-existing organic matter. Basically, we have to eat other organisms. For those autotrophs, there is this absolute magic chemical recipe:
6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 12 molecules of water, powered by sunlight and captured by chlorophyll, yields exactly 1 molecule of glucose plus some oxygen and water. This is photosynthesis. It's the miraculous process that converts raw solar energy into stored chemical energy, and it provides the foundational food source for almost the entire planet.
But I need to make a really critical clarification here. Whether you're a plant that just made its own glucose or an animal that just ate it, that food still has to be broken down to get the actual energy out. This process is called respiration. And actually, a lot of people tend to confuse breathing with respiration. Breathing is just the physical mechanics, right? Inhaling oxygen and exhaling CO2 with your lungs. But respiration, that's the intracellular chemical oxidation of food to synthesize that ATP energy we just talked about. Basically, breathing gets the oxygen to the cell, but respiration is what actually uses it to unlock the energy.
Let's wrap things up with Section 4, Characteristics of Living Organisms, the 7 Pillars of Life. So every single living organism on Earth shares 7 distinct characteristics. Biologists often remember them using the acronym MS-GREN. We've got movement, to optimize resources or avoid hazards, respiration, to synthesize that precious ATP, sensitivity, to detect environmental stimuli, growth, increasing cellular mass, excretion, to eliminate toxic metabolic byproducts, reproduction, transmitting genetic material to keep the lineage going, and nutrition, the acquisition of organic monomers. Together, these 7 pillars maintain a beautifully dynamic homeostatic state.
And yes, even plants, which seem completely stilled to us, actively exhibit these exact pillars. Take a look at the guard cells on a leaf. They control these microscopic pores called stomata. By swelling up with water to open or shrinking down to close, these cells are actively regulating gas exchange for respiration, and they're allowing excess water vapor to escape, which is actually a form of excretion. They are literally sensing their environment and reacting dynamically just to survive.
So, to wrap up our explainer today, being alive means existing in this beautifully complex, highly organized state. The universe naturally leans toward chaos and decay, but life is the grand rebellion against that rule. We are open systems, constantly pulling in matter and energy from our surroundings just to maintain our incredibly intricate structures. So, knowing that your body is fighting a continuous, frankly, miraculous battle against entropy right at this very second, knowing that your cells are burning through ATP to keep your heart beating, your lungs expanding, and your brain firing, what will you do with your energy today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you leave with a newfound appreciation for the absolute powerhouse of machinery keeping you alive. See you next time.